Honor, joy, and privilege to do it all with you once again this week. This is the Duval Dive. Of course, I am the Jaguar Reports, Kyle Nash, the student of the game, and with me, my personal champion, the man who helps me break it all down, Travis Holmes, Big Cat Country. What's going on, my man?
Man, I'm doing well, man. This is a Friday, and we have contract and free agent news. Oh my gosh, I'm feeling
Yeah.
good, man.
Listen, you may think it's a spiritual holiday. By the way, happy Good Friday to those who are celebrating. Have a happy Easter over the weekend. Um, but yeah, there's no day off here, particularly in the Jags front office. A linebacker and defensive team captain Foye Oluokun has extended his contract. Details are 4 years for $45 million, 22.5 mil guaranteed. I mean, Travis, let's be clear. The big thing we're seeing there with that extension is obviously them making room for any sort of extension with Josh Allen or anybody
Right,
else who's going to need that Kizash. I mean, obviously at this point, Josh Allen, you would think is the priority in the room to get figured out, especially on that defense.
right.
To have Foye coming back, to me, if I'm Josh Allen, is a positive for at least the next couple years. But I've seen it also out there on Twitter implying that this is also an indicator of a misstep for the Jags as well. But yeah, your reaction to Foye's extension.
I mean, my reaction is, great for Foye because we always love Foye. We were always fans of his. He may not be the top All Pro, first team All Pro guy, but he is absolutely that Pro Bowl caliber run stopping guy who's consistent. Who's the guy? He is Frank Gore. Um,
Sort
he's
of linebackers. That's
of
interesting.
linebackers. That is it. Like he will be there for you. He is that guy for the locker room. Great, great for him. Get the bag. Awesome. From the team building stance, however, I mean, we got to talk about Trent Baalke as always. And unfortunately, that's always going to go back to that because I'm going to say it is a misstep as you originally stated.
And I mean, like the first guy who I saw tweet something like that to his credit was Locked On Jaguars host T. Wiggs, Tony Wiggins,
Mhm.
give him his credit.
Absolutely. And he basically stated, yeah, that's a misstep because now you're obviously looking at the Chad Muma signing, and I'm like, well, it's not just the Chad Muma signing, but you're not wrong. Like T Wig's again locked on Jaguars T Wig, he's 100% correct on that. But the Jaguars over the past few years have third in the league. So top of the league and the amount of linebackers that they actually sign as far as the NFL draft, the linebackers they draft in the top 100 picks. If you're a team who drafts linebackers at that click, you have to be able to hit on a few of them to not be forced to sign your linebackers to these bigger contracts. Like
Hit on
that's the
some
game.
Yeah, and well, to be clear, I'm not going to necessarily scold the Jags for signing a guy that has multiple times led the league
Right.
in tackles, and oh, by the way, had a pick six in a crucial moment in the game last year. Like that.
Right.
I'm not taking that away from them. Maybe if they had drafted the guys, they would still keep Foye on the team. No guarantee of that, obviously, with their cap situation, such that it is them trying to keep it under control.
Bing.
Them trying to account for Tyson Campbell, Andre Cisco, Travis Etienne at some point, and of
Trevor
course Trevor
Trevor
Lawrence.
Lawrence.
Yeah, I was saving him for last. Don't work with me here, but and there's other impacts too. Like if I'm not implying you one simply replaces Foye Oluokun. Matter of fact, you and I both, I think we've talked to him significant amounts of times in the Jacksonville Jaguar locker room. I mean, between him and Christian Kirk, like I
Hmm.
think those are the two guys I know I've enjoyed talking to the most, and there have been some others I
Bingo.
enjoyed. And don't get it twisted, there, guys. I have a lot of fun with a lot of you. I talk some golf with Josh Allen. Like it's a thing we did, but I mentioned all that to say, like I feel like whatever for if you're looking at just the stats to evaluate keeping Foye on the staff, you are not evaluating everything.
Right.
Foye is being kept in as well for intangible purposes. Yes, we know Josh Allen's the big name. For all the guys that are on that squad, the captain of the team at that middle linebacker spot is still Foye.
You are
Right.
correct.
And I think there's a good reason for that, by the way. Over and above the emotional, hey, this is a guy that did it right, all this other stuff.
Hmm.
It's nice to be able to write that. But I think about having a guy who's a field general on and off the field is certainly worthy to keep in the building.
I do agree, and that's again, this is not a knock on Foye because we love Foye when we both are in full agreement on that. So that's not even the conversation. It truly does come down to the fact that from a team building perspective, that obviously this is an ongoing conversation that we've had about Trent Baalke for a very long time.
Right.
You spend all these picks on offensive line, you shouldn't need to supplement and fill the offensive line with free agent dollars. That's the reason that you're spending that draft capital on that. The exact same conversation then has to take place with linebacker because it's not one of those positions you historically want to put a lot of your free agent funds into. That's just keeping it 100.
Oh.
Speaking of 100, yeah. So we got Devin Lloyd, we got Chad Muma, and we got Ventura Miller, those recent picks that we've tried to basically fill in that spot in the hopes that they will eventually, be that succession plan. And it just hasn't worked so far. And it kind of forces you to use some of that money that you should be using on those premium positions that won't be allocated to that.
It's funny. I'm over here working to promote the show here on the Student of the Game Twitter account, the SOTG. Bing! See, I still don't have my voice quite back yet. It's working. We're closer. But I'm looking around here sharing the Duval dive out and about on Twitter, and I'm reading this particular tweet. As a reminder, Foye Oluokun's new contract, the Jaguars have used top 100 draft picks to draft linebackers at the third highest rate in the NFL, yet still after drafting Devin Lloyd, Chad Muma, Ventrell Miller, in recent years, the team has no succession plan and re-ups the contract. In the words of the great and wise Travis D. Holmes on Twitter. You might know that guy. No, and here's the thing. I was never a Muma guy. I never thought that was the best pick. Devin Lloyd has gotten better, has progressed.
Correct.
I would also make the argument, like at least Lloyd's getting on the field a lot, right? I would make the argument that again, a lack of replacing Foye is not an indictment, but not having a clear successor either is problematic. And at this point in his career, with all the hits he's clearly delivered, like delivering punishment offers punishment. I have met Hall of Fame linebackers, including the late Nick Butkus, and obviously down the line for him, it's a lot different because he was older, blah, blah, blah. But the kind of mileage that puts on your body to deliver hits like that, it's only a matter of time before he starts missing games, and you need somebody in there. And correct me if I'm wrong, Travis, but I don't feel like Yasir Abdullah would be a guy who would play that spot either.
Right.
So
that's not his role. He's another linebacker, and so is obviously Trayvon Walker, but they're not the same line. They're not inside linebackers.
Yeah, you cannot put Trayvon there. I think that would be a bad idea.
Right. That's what I'm saying. I didn't even count those guys.
Right. But so I mean, as much as we talk about Trayvon Walker being versatile, I don't think we're looking to do that either. So,
that'd be hilarious.
It would be hilarious if they did that and it worked. And like we should have drafted Hutchinson.
Can you imagine Walker coming in the A gap, coming on a double A gap blitz? Lord, I would pay for that.
Let's write a package or two, maybe goal line sets.
That'd be dope. While you over here talking, I'm like, hey, Ryan Nielsen, get on it.
Nah, we being silly, folks. Don't take that too seriously. We're just having fun on that one, y'all. No, but I think there's a lot of there to be had. But so that was the big news this morning that broke out of the Jags front office. But let's break into another piece there. Let's switch sides of the ball. Still guys that are thumping in the middle, and perhaps the natural enemy of the linebacker that is not an offensive tackle in the second level. I know a little about that life. But the acquisition of Josiah Jaguar. Yeah, I'll go with that. But basically, listen, the Jags have been trying to find that air quotes fullback presence, right? That lead blocking presence.
Right.
And they're bringing in Jaguar. I know you've had your criticisms about what's going on there, but actually, you're back again with your creativity, putting out a cool little vid about what Jaguar could mean for the team. Let's play that.
Right. So, I mean, Doug Peterson has he got some questions to answer. So we have a few highlights of Jaguar coming backside, taking out Micah Parsons and allowing Aaron Jones to get into the touchdown from last year. Another example of him again being that fullback presence or being that in motion tight end presence, and he's able to do a few things. Again, he's not the greatest guy, but he's good. He's solid. But now we have to take this back to our week 17 conversation that we had here on the Duval Dive, talking about Brendan Strange coming from that fullback spot and how it was like he wasn't as strong as you may have wanted him to be. Like I love Brendan Strange from that tight end, motion, that motion tight end spot and the inline blocking spot. But we got to make Travis Etienne great again. I need the mega hats all out here, like MEGA. Let's make that man great again. But I need Brendan Strange to be a little bit better from that fullback spot because again, I think he's actually very solid as an inline blocker and then as a motion tight end. So I'm very happy to see them bringing another guy in who at minimum can give them some sort of a maybe a camp competition for that fullback role, whether it's the 5 or 6 snaps a game that they're actually going to use a fullback. But no, but basically what happened with Jaguar is the Packers ended up having Luke Musgrave and Tyler Kraft on the team, so he kind of got phased out of their game plan in very many situations. So he only averaged like 12 snaps a game there outside of special teams. But he was solid as a blocker. PFF had him ranked as the 41st out of 83 tight ends in run blocking. Again, that's not incredible, but it's not bad. It's just that's solid. Uh, as a pass blocker, he has some opportunities. So I'm not even going to talk about those ratings. But nevertheless, he was his strength was those special team snaps. Great. That's also a good thing with the new kickoff change.
The XFL style kickoff, which
Yes, the SFL kickoff return. So now we might have more linebackers and more tight ends lined up front. And also that could be beneficial for the Jaguars for those 5 to 10 snaps, whatever it's going to be per game, having an actual fullback presence on the field. So I can't clown it for a 1-year contract.
I mean, first of all, I talk a lot about the new kickoff rules for the NFL on this week's edition of the Student of the Game. Bing! So check that out. But I love the point you make that he'll be useful in that particular exchange. If the ball happens to bounce to him and he can make a play to return it, that would be cool. But obviously lead blocking is where it's at. Right. It's less about having a gunner and more about a dude that can find and open a lane and move a man against his will. I think it's a great point you make there. But if they're going to bring in a player like this in free agency from the Packers to do this job, all we've done is prove right my complaining just a few months this time last year about Bigsby and that draft pick being an absolutely horrible decision. In a world, by the way, Travis Holmes, where Joey Porter Jr. was still on the damn board. Now, since they've gotten Bigsby, right, and I like the kid, I met him, but as far as a draft evaluation, you got 3 guys now on the roster to presumably possibly do the job. And I get it if you don't want to plug Darren Johnson in that role. That kind of makes sense, but I feel like that's something you could do if you were going to do a split back situation with him and NT, and that's something you could have played with. Then Bigsby, when he holds on to the ball, when you hand it to him, then also I thought he was supposed to be this big body that could do that. He didn't do that. And apparently they're at the point where they felt like, and some of the criticisms you made in your funny mega video, that's MEGA, folks. Make NT great again. Don't get it confused. All right. But the whole situation where you feel like you need to upgrade over Brendan Strange, I'm not going to make the argument that that's 2 missed picks. I'm not going to go there, but I mean, if you had to, speaking of exposing missteps, if you had to bring this guy in, Bigsby was a bad pick, period, point blank in the story.
Well, I won't say that Bigsby was a bad pick, and that's not true either. That's going too far to the right. But I'm not going to say he was a good or a bad pick. I'm just going to say he was a pick at this current moment in time, and I'll let whatever happens next year kind of just sway me based on that. He had a bad rookie season. Travis Etienne had a bad rookie season. I get it. I mean, like the rookie season from hell. I fully understand.
First of all, Travis Etienne, depending on how you look at it, had a fine rookie season because he was finally healthy and did an excellent job as a first-year guy who essentially supplanted, Robinson as a starter. So there's that.
Well, my overall point on all of that was simply that this team was last season, just 1 year ago, we I think the majority of Jaguars fandom, the majority of the Duval devout, all felt that this team was a little bit too lemon booty as far as how they worked the free agency from last year. So they didn't end up wanting to sign a lot of guys. They didn't end up wanting to draft a lot of guys that were going to take other guys' spots, and
Right.
that's exactly what it felt like. They didn't want to bring competition in.
You
They
said
didn't.
this much last year. One
Yeah.
of many who did.
Right. So this is in hindsight. This we were actively saying that all last offseason. Like, hey man, cream rise to the top, bring guys in, let them fight it out, and whoever don't win, that's going to be your backup. Dope. But then the way they went about it instead was they brought in, frankly, backup level guys and just the hope or development level guys where they just hope, all right, so they'll know their role and it won't rock the boat as far as the locker room is concerned. And they basically gave guys their spots, and that took the fire out of a lot of guys. That's my personal opinion. I think they needed that competition. They needed that edge, iron to sharpen iron, and let these guys fight it out. And that's what I'm a fan of. At least it's second round draft pick in his entering his second year, and he might actually have some competition for the third tight end spot. That's not a spot you should be giving your role. I'm happy they're bringing somebody in to compete. Let's go.
Well, no, and first of all, the compete defense is a great one. However, I don't think it applies to what I'm saying because here's what I
Uh,
know. I know that Joey Porter Jr. has already contributed as a corner. Okay, that
That's my
happened
boy.
in
That's my
2020.
boy. And that
Okay,
sucks.
here's the other thing though. Last year, if you were going to pick a position group, Travis, other than offensive line, I'm not going to let you out that easy.
Mm.
That struggled with injuries and depleted in the level of talent and performance therein because of it. Who was it?
Interestingly enough, we could use a Joey Porter Jr. right now because it's not like we're not mocking a first round cornerback. It's not like we're being mocked for first round cornerbacks or anything in this next draft right
I
after
see
that
what
one.
there, Travis.
So yeah, you're not wrong. Yeah, that's a rough one, but it is what it is. We all knew we had questions on those second and third round draft picks from last year, and now those questions are matriculating again the next season because duh, that's what we expect. That's what we all saw coming. So it kind of is what it is. But I hope that the Jaguars are one step closer to having a true fullback on the roster because again, we need to make ETN great again, and I think he can be if they get Trevor Lawrence under center.
Yeah, and listen, considering the Jags are where they are right now, you've mentioned all the key things that I would. He's a good leak option. He's a good protection option.
Mhm.
He's going to be involved in special teams. And oh, by the way, make NTN great again. I totally get all the above with that. It's interesting you use Week 17 in that particular example against a Panthers team, by the way, who is uh, no one even still has any illusions of grandeur for the
No.
Carolina Panthers. We'll say this about them, right? And I mean, those are the facts of the case. I mean, no disrespect, but
Yeah.
the film spoke for itself on that. Listen, man, the reason why I'm harping on this so hard,
Okay.
and call me a damaged Niner fan, call me a dude supporting my guy. I'm a dude that's trying to play the dude but as somebody who needs to show some solidarity for bulky criticism,
Okay.
I spotted this in the draft. I am a bad scout. I am not one of these draft nicks that can pick out talent like this. But I knew that you had, what is it that everyone likes so much? Pedigree. I don't think that's a big deal, but you happen to have it. And a dude that happened to ball out. I never heard of Bigsby before that day. So, you know,
I hadn't seen much of him. I had heard of him, but sure,
okay,
but
you're
well,
right.
it wasn't expected. Let's say it that way.
Oh, I know that is yes, that is perhaps the fairest statement. Yeah, I hadn't heard of him as a bit strong. I'll agree with that. He's a running back in the SEC. He's going to do a few things. I get it.
Eh, but at least the Jaguars did draft a fullback last year. Seventh round edge slash slash fullback. I guess I don't
Oh,
know what to call it. Derek Parrish,
yeah,
and then he didn't
that's
make the
Swiss Army
roster.
knife guy. That's what I said. Yeah, the slash, the slash, the slash. Yes, yes.
Yeah, so they can say they tried. I don't know, man. But again, we're one step closer to making the better decisions, and I'm happy for that piece. This is all I can hope for in a Trent Baalke led team at this point. Um, it's positive movement towards the right answer, even if it's not the exact right answer that I want. Great. So yeah, we're almost there.
Here's a concept I heard floated out there on Twitter, and we didn't pre-show this, so just roll with me on it. I know you can because you're a
Okay.
good man and you're a champion and you can handle it. But a point I've heard made out there, um, I should say most prominently, again, going back to T. Wiggs real quick, he mentioned something on Locked On in the past week that I thought was an interesting concept and I thought deserved more conversation.
Okay.
And that is the Jags have gotten in free agency a corner or a DB, a receiver, and offensive line, right?
Yep. And center.
Three things that this draft is allegedly dripping with talent on. Now,
Yes.
you've had your own comments about how deep you really think the receiver core is. We talked about that last week on the dive. I get it. And yeah, but it was going to free agency for those spots that are rife with that talent. Was that a smart move for the front office in your mind?
It's not the smart move for most teams, but it may be the smart move for this team. And it's basically
Well,
saying,
the way you answered that.
yeah, it's basically saying what I got two kids, and if anybody who has children, you know what I mean when I get here. I got two kids. I got they're different people. They act different ways. For one of my kids, hey man, an A is the expectation. This is what we expect. In line in the sand. For my other kid, hey man, you come home with a B plus, we dancing in the street. Like, and it should be the same, but hey man, realistically, it's just not. I'm sorry, gonna keep it 100. So the same way applies with Trent Baalke. I don't have the authorization from Mr. Shad Khan to fire him. So in the meantime, he is who he is, and I have to judge him based on who he is, not who I want him to be. That's what it is. So who he is says he's a guy who generally does not take guys in the top 100 as far as receivers are concerned, and he's just not a guy who has historically drafted a great receiver. But that being said, if that's who you are and that's your weaknesses and strength, then that you can't draft a receiver in the front, you got to go and get him in free agency. Cool. It sucks, but I'm grading you based on who you are. The same thing would apply for the other positions. Like, hey, he's trying to fill those holes and still be able to draft BPA because that is who he is. If that is who you are, then I understand that's what you're going to do. That's kind of what I expected. None of these corners that they signed, like Darby, when they signed him, like that's not going to hold you from drafting a corner in the first round if the right guy's there. I get it. Um, so I don't blame you on that. And Morse I felt was a good signing, and it still doesn't stop you from drafting a guy. Like if they were to trade back and draft JPJ, maybe at that 27 to 30 spot or something along those lines, and he can play guard and then transition to center in the future years. I would be dancing in the streets on something like that, depending on what they can pick up. Like that to me sounds dope. Even though they signed this center, because I don't know that Luke Fortner is necessarily in the future plans, and that's something that he's going to have to compete for and fight for and get stronger to
Right.
to earn. So I understand the point, but if you're not a good drafting team, then you're not a good drafting team. This is what it is. Like I'm judging you because you're not a good drafter, and because you hadn't shown me that you have the ability to be one.
Let the record show, by the way, for all our criticism earlier, you could tell Travis has put on his positive forward looking hat to an extent, and I'm about to do the same thing, but in a different direction. You have made the bold assumption that Trent Baalke is this self-aware that he has struggled at that. Or maybe the data slaps him in the face to where even he is compelled to believe the facts of the case that you just presented. But I'm going to go another direction, too.
Okay.
Here's another potential positive here, and that is let everybody else go to the trough and fight for X, Y, and Z positions that they might need. Hell, even in the case, let's take the Los Angeles Chargers, who now have a new coach in the building in Jim Harbaugh, that need to go back to the trough and reevaluate their receiver situation entirely with two significantly talented vets now out and about some damn where. Like, they're going to be going to the trough. There's just a lot of teams out there that will be doing that, and everybody's looking for an opportunity to find beef. It's that's a thing that's going to happen. I think the Jags are wise to let them, the other teams, the competition, attack those pieces, and then maybe the Jags get the best available in the form of a DB or an edge, and then further down, if these positions are as deep as one alleges, maybe then they get those, right? Or let's say there's an inside linebacker out there that is really good and has the opportunity to bring himself into a unit to help relieve, not succeed, relieve Foye and Lloyd doing the thing. Muma's going to be a thing of the past. It's only
Well, now I don't even know if that's even a realistic. I I don't know that's realistic, but I forget that the Jaguars
don't get lost in the
they love linebackers. Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, you're right.
Right. I mean, also consider the audience too. That's a point in my favor. I'm just saying. But
Yeah.
don't get too caught up in the example so much as the concept I'm trying to present here. In that, if they want to attack less deep positions with guys and that may have guys that they thoroughly enjoy,
Okay.
that might be an approach they take. Now, I'm not here to say, oh, well, Michael Penix could fall to him. No, first of all, no, he won't be. Obviously, quarterback is not a position they're going for. They've got Trevor, and they've upgraded the backup depth. And for no other reason did they get Mac Jones. Can we freaking stop it? God, I'm still seeing that ish out on Twitter. Makes me want to throw things, Travis.
Man, people are having fun. Let the people have fun in the off season. That's what happens.
I believe it to be true. This is why I go out there with my Mad Max gift.
This is a CJ Beathard, Mac Jones conversation. Trevor Lawrence has nothing to do with it other than the fact that this is his most injured year and the fact that they were like, maybe I need to get a better backup. Cool.
So, I mean, this is going to be his 8th year coming up, I think, at least something like that. But with all of the above being said, Travis, tell the people where you can be found, my guy.
Oh man, we are at that time again. Lord, man, goodness.
We're going to be able to actually wrap up on time rather than be a couple minutes late this week.
You can find me on all the socials, Travis D. Holmes, as it says. Wait, here. Yeah, there you go. On all the socials, Travis D. Holmes. You can find me, on Big Cat Country where I cover the Jacksonville Jaguars. We have the free agency trackers that was updated just this morning with the Foye Oluokun signing. And also the summary of all of the interviews from the owners meeting for Mr. Doug Peterson. Please take a look at that. It's chock full of some great information, just finding out what Ryan Nielsen's defense is going to look like, Trevor Lawrence criticism, and also making ETN great again. Mega, let's go.
Well, I could tell you this, doing the show with you this week, Travis Holmes, was mega fun. And it's all right. Of course, I'm Kyle Nash, the student of the game. You can find me on Twitter, Threads, and Instagram at the SOTG. Check out my writings with the Jaguar Report, the 3-point conversion, and the black and gold banneret. You may have seen some of my stuff out there in the soldiers, me being at spring practice with UCF. They got a scrimmage this week on Saturday I'm going to be at. So check out all that action on the black and gold banneret.com or recording an episode of the Night Shift podcast with the Black and Gold Banneret. So that should be fun too as well. And of course, my work covering the Orlando Magic with A7BN Sports playoff bound here. Travis Holmes, very fascinating thing there too. So look for that, as well as the Student of the Game podcast, which you will find on Wednesdays, 9:00 Eastern time. Just the same way you're finding this, either on podcast, on Sertoba Media or Huddle Up YouTube channel, the Student of the Game Twitch channel. I know I'm in my 40s. I have a Twitch channel. What's up? And then, of course, you can check out both that show and this show on the Old School 101 Sports, oldschool101.com Sports Block 12 to 2. And of course, you can check out the Duval Dive as well on the 3-point conversion iHeart Radio channel. So that is a fun time for everyone involved. Travis, an honor, joy, and privilege. Happy Easter to you, the fam, and all that. But until next time, everybody, class dismissed.